Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see strength? Do you see value? Or do you see someone trying to live up to the expectations of everyone else? Be honest, because what you see is not just a reflection of your physical self, it's a reflection of how much love you've given yourself. And let me tell you, there's no greater responsibility, no greater priority than learning to love yourself more than anyone else. Your worth is not up for debate. It is not something that fluctuates based on what you achieve, who you know, or how much money you have in the bank. It's not determined by the mistakes you've made or the successes you've yet to attain. Your worth is inherent, undeniable, and unshakable. Yet, so many of us forget this. We live in a world that constantly tries to put a price tag on us. The lies we tell ourselves and the fear who we really are that makes the world a more dangerous and frightening place. It tells us that we need to look a certain way, act a certain way, or accomplish specific things to be considered valuable. But let me tell you something. Those standards are illusions. They are distractions meant to keep you chasing an idea of perfection that doesn't exist. Be better. Your worth is not dependent on anyone else's perception of you. It doesn't matter what others think you are or aren't capable of. Their opinions don't define you unless you let them. The moment you start believing that your value lies in someone else's hands is the moment you give away your power. You might spend years trying to prove your worth to people who will never see it because they're too focused on their own insecurities. See, that's not your responsibility. Your job is to recognize and honor your value, regardless of how others choose to see you. I swear before the living God, I only ever once prophesied to be murdered. Think about it this way. You didn't have to earn your worth when you were born. As a baby, you were worthy of love, care, and attention just because you existed. You didn't have to prove yourself or meet some impossible standard. So why do you think you have to earn it now? What changed? The truth is, nothing changed. You are still that same valuable soul. Life might have piled burdens, expectations, and doubts onto your shoulders, but your core, the essence of who you are, hasn't lost its value. The only thing that's changed is your perspective. Many of us make the mistake of tying our worth to external achievements. We think that if we just get the promotion, lose the weight, or find the right partner, then we'll finally feel like we're enough. But let me tell you this. No amount of success, no relationship, and no amount of money will ever fill that void if you don't first recognize your worth as it stands today. The problem with basing your value on external factors is that those things can be taken away. Jobs come and go, looks fade, people change, and if your worth is tied to something so temporary, what happens when it's gone? You're left feeling empty, questioning your place in the world. Learning the definition of worth is what keeps me bound to this earth and back to the stars. Learning the definition of worth, loving yourself begins with acknowledging that your worth isn't tied to your accomplishments or your failures. It's not a measure of how well you meet society's expectations. It's about realizing that you, as you are right now, flaws, scars, and all, are enough. That doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for growth or improvement. It means you should pursue those things because you value yourself, not because you think they'll make you valuable. End quote. The difference is subtle but life-changing. When you see yourself as worthy, you make better choices. You stop tolerating toxic relationships, settling for less, or chasing validation from people who don't appreciate you. You start setting boundaries because you know your peace is worth protecting. You start prioritizing your mental and physical health because you understand that you deserve to feel good in your own skin. You stop comparing yourself to others because their journey has nothing to do with your value. This shift in mindset isn't easy. It takes time to unlearn the lies you've been told about your worth. But every step you take toward loving and valuing yourself is a step toward freedom. You'll start to see that the world responds to the way you see yourself. When you respect yourself, others will learn to respect you too. When you love yourself, you'll attract people and opportunities that align with that love. And when you understand that your worth is non-negotiable, nothing and no one will ever be able to take that away from you. Too often, we find ourselves chasing the approval of others, seeking validation in places that can never truly satisfy us. It's a pattern many of us fall into, consciously or unconsciously, as we try to prove our worth to the world. We tell ourselves that if we just earn their praise, get their recognition, or win their admiration, we'll finally feel complete. But the truth is, no amount of external validation will ever be enough if you don't already believe in your own value. Relying on others to define your worth is like building a house on quicksand. It's unstable, temporary, and will never give you the solid foundation you need to thrive. Seeking external validation is a trap that keeps you running in circles. You might get a momentary high when someone praises you, or when you achieve something that garners applause, but that feeling fades quickly. Then you're back at square one, searching for the next person, the next accomplishment, or the next situation to fill the void. This cycle can leave you exhausted and feeling even more empty because the validation you're chasing is never permanent. What's worse is that you become dependent on others to feel good about yourself, and when their approval doesn't come, or worse, when they criticize you, it can feel like your entire sense of self is crumbling. The danger of living for external validation is that it takes away your power. You give other people control over your emotions, your self-esteem, and even your decisions. When you're constantly looking for others to approve of you, you're essentially saying that their opinion matters more than your own. You start making choices not because they're right for you, but because you think they'll make others happy. And the more you do this, the more you lose touch with who you really are and what you truly want. Think about how much energy you spend worrying about what other people think. How many times have you held yourself back from speaking your mind, pursuing your dreams, or simply being yourself because you were afraid of judgment? The reality is, no matter what you do, you'll never be able to please everyone. There will always be people who criticize you, misunderstand you, or fail to see your worth. That's their problem, not yours. You can't control how others perceive you, but you can control how you perceive yourself. And that's where the real work begins. Instead of seeking external validation, focus on building internal confidence. This starts with knowing who you are and what you stand for. Take the time to reflect on your values, your strengths, and the things that make you unique. When you're clear about these things, you won't feel the need to look outward for affirmation because you'll already know your own worth. Self-contradiction doesn't come from arrogance or ego. It comes from a quiet, unshakable belief in yourself. Learn to celebrate your own achievements, even if no one else notices. Recognize your growth, even if it feels small. Give yourself credit for the effort you put in, regardless of the outcome. These are the practices that help you build a solid foundation of self-worth. When you learn to validate yourself, you become less affected by the opinions of others, both positive and negative. Compliments become a nice bonus, not a necessity, and criticism becomes an opportunity for growth, not a blow to your identity. It's also important to let go of the need for social media or public acknowledgement to feel valued. We live in a world where likes, comments, and followers can make it seem like our worth is tied to how much attention we get. But the truth is, your value isn't measured by numbers or metrics. Real fulfillment comes from knowing that you're living authentically and staying true to yourself, regardless of who's watching. Choosing to stop seeking external validation doesn't mean you won't care about others or want to build meaningful relationships. It means that your sense of self won't depend on their approval. You'll be able to give and receive love, support, and feedback without losing your own identity. This shift is liberating because it allows you to live with authenticity and integrity. You become free to take risks, make mistakes, and grow without fear of judgment because your self-worth isn't on the line. When you stop seeking external validation, you reclaim your power. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone, and that freedom allows you to focus on what truly matters. You'll find that the more you value yourself, the less you'll need others to validate you. You'll be able to stand tall, not because someone else told you to, but because you decided to. And that's a strength no one can take away from you. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect and self-preservation. It's about drawing a line between what is acceptable and what is not, protecting the sacred space of your peace and well-being. Too often, people feel guilty for establishing boundaries, as though doing so is selfish or inconsiderate. But the truth is, boundaries are necessary for maintaining healthy relationships with others and with yourself. They are not about shutting people out. They are about ensuring that the connections you maintain are respectful, balanced, and supportive. The first step in setting boundaries is recognizing your limits. You must be honest with yourself about what you can handle emotionally, mentally, and physically. When you don't acknowledge these limits, you risk overextending yourself, which leads to stress, resentment, and burnout. It's important to remember that you are not responsible for carrying the weight of the world. Failure to do so will mean the death of your business and the loss of your dream career. You have the right to say no, to step back, and to prioritize your needs without feeling like you owe anyone an explanation. Establishing boundaries also requires clarity. You cannot expect others to respect your limits if you don't communicate them clearly. Many people hesitate to express their boundaries because they fear conflict or rejection, but staying silent only leads to frustration. When you set boundaries, you are teaching others how to treat you. This doesn't mean being harsh or unkind. It means being firm and direct. Say what you mean and mean what you say. For example, if someone frequently interrupts your personal time, calmly let them know that you need that time to recharge and would appreciate it if they respected that. By doing so, you're not only protecting your peace, but also fostering mutual respect. It's equally important to enforce your boundaries consistently. Setting boundaries without follow-through sends mixed signals. If you've told someone that you won't tolerate certain behaviors, yet you continue to accept them, you undermine your own efforts. Enforcing boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're dealing with people who are used to overstepping. However, the discomfort is temporary, and the long-term benefits far outweigh it. This consistency is what solidifies your boundaries and shows others that you value yourself enough to stand by them. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about taking control of your own life. You cannot change how others behave, but you can decide how you respond and what you allow into your space. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, you have the right to reassess their place in your life. Sometimes protecting your peace means limiting contact with certain people or walking away altogether. This is not an act of weakness or cruelty. It's an act of self-love. You are not obligated to keep people in your life who disregard your well-being. Another important aspect of setting boundaries is learning to let go of guilt. Society often tells us that prioritizing ourselves is selfish, but nothing could be further from the truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving at the expense of your own peace, you'll eventually have nothing left to give. By setting boundaries, you're not only protecting yourself, but also ensuring that you can show up for others in a healthier, more balanced way. Remember, saying no to others is often saying yes to yourself. Boundaries are not static. They evolve as you grow and change. What you needed 5 years ago may not be what you need now, and that's okay. Regularly evaluate your boundaries and adjust them as necessary. Life is dynamic, and so are your needs. Stay in tune with yourself, and don't be afraid to make changes when something no longer serves your peace. Flexibility doesn't mean compromising your values. It means adapting to ensure you remain aligned with them. Setting boundaries is a form of empowerment. It allows you to take ownership of your life and make choices that align with your values and priorities. It's a declaration that your peace matters, that your well-being is non-negotiable. When you set boundaries, you are choosing to honor yourself, and that's a choice worth making every single day. Pain is an inevitable part of life, but it is not the entirety of life. Too often, people allow their pain to take center stage, letting it shape their identity and dictate their future. While it's natural to feel overwhelmed by the weight of hardship, it's important to remember that pain is an experience, not a definition. It is something you endure, something you navigate, but it is not who you are. You are far more than the challenges you've faced or the struggles you've endured. Pain has a way of convincing you that it's permanent. In moments of deep hurt, it can feel like the walls are closing in, like there's no escape. But pain is temporary, even if it doesn't feel that way. It's a phase, a season, and like all seasons, it will eventually pass. It's not meant to define you, but rather to teach you. Every difficulty carries within it a lesson, an opportunity for growth. The challenge is to look beyond the surface of your pain and find the strength and wisdom hidden within it. Your pain does not diminish your value. It doesn't matter if your pain comes from rejection, loss, failure, or betrayal. You are still worthy of love, respect, and happiness. Too often, people internalize their pain, believing that it somehow reflects their worth. They think, if I'm suffering, I must have done something wrong. I must not be good enough. But that's a lie. Pain is not a measure of your worth. It's a part of the human experience. The purpose of life is to answer the cry of God for itself. Everyone, no matter how strong or successful, has faced pain. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of life. One of the most important steps in not allowing pain to define you is learning to let go of the need to carry it with you. Holding on to pain, replaying the hurt, Reliving the betrayal, revisiting the failure, only anchors you to the past. It keeps you stuck, unable to move forward. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it never happened. It means releasing its grip on you, choosing not to let it dictate your actions, thoughts, or feelings. It's about reclaiming your power and deciding that your future will not be a reflection of your pain, but of your strength. Pain often tries to convince you that you're alone, that no one else understands what you're going through. But isolation only deepens the wound. Reaching out for support, whether from friends, family, or a professional, is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of courage. Sharing your pain doesn't make it more real, it makes it more bearable. It allows you to connect with others who can offer comfort, perspective, and sometimes even solutions you hadn't considered. Community is one of the most powerful tools for overcoming pain because it reminds you that you're not alone. Choosing not to let pain define you also means focusing on what you can control. While you may not be able to change the past or avoid every hardship, you can control how you respond to it. You can choose resilience over defeat, hope over despair, and action over stagnation. It's not easy, and it won't happen overnight. But every small step you take toward healing is a step away from letting pain control your life. The process of healing is not linear, and setbacks are normal, but progress is always possible if you're willing to keep moving forward. Your identity is built on so much more than the pain you've endured. It's built on your dreams, your values, your passions, and the love you give and receive. Pain may shape you, but it doesn't have to define you. You can take what you've learned from your pain and use it to become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. You can use it as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Every scar tells a story, not of defeat, but of survival, of perseverance, of the courage it took to keep going. Life will always have its challenges, and pain will come and go. But you are not your pain. You are the person who rises above it, who finds meaning in the struggle, and who refuses to let it overshadow all the beauty and potential within you. You are defined by your resilience, your ability to love despite the hurt, and your determination to keep growing even when the odds feel stacked against you. By the determination to keep growing even when the odds feel stacked against you. Pain may leave its mark, but it doesn't have the final say. You do. Solitude is often misunderstood. Many people see it as a form of punishment, a consequence of being unwanted or unloved. But the truth is far more profound. Solitude, when embraced with the right mindset, is a gift, a precious opportunity to connect with yourself on a deeper level, to find clarity, and to grow. Mudge, it's not about being lonely. It's about being comfortable in your own company, learning to thrive without external distractions, and recognizing the value of the time you spend with yourself. In solitude, you can hear the quiet whispers of your own thoughts, desires, and dreams. In a world filled with constant noise and demands for your attention, finding that kind of stillness is rare. It's in this space that you can reflect on who you are, what you want, and what truly matters to you. Solitude gives you the chance to step away from the chaos and recharge your mind and spirit. It allows you to think deeply without interruptions, fostering a sense of self-awareness that is hard to achieve when you're always surrounded by others. Spending time alone also helps you build resilience. When you're constantly seeking companionship or validation from others, you become dependent on external sources for your sense of security and happiness. Solitude teaches you that you don't need anyone else to feel whole. It reminds you that you are enough, just as you are. This independence strengthens your inner resolve and empowers you to face challenges with confidence. Solitude destroys comparatives, and it strengthens your inner resolve and empowers you to face challenges with confidence. You realize that you can handle life's difficulties without relying on others to carry you through, which is an incredibly liberating feeling. Solitude is a creative force. Some of the most profound ideas and innovations have been born out of moments of quiet introspection. When you're alone, your mind has the freedom to wander, to explore new possibilities, and to solve problems in unique ways. Without the pressure to conform to others' expectations or opinions, you can think outside the box and express yourself authentically. You can think outside the box and express yourself authentically. Solitude nurtures creativity because it allows you to connect with your true self, unfiltered and uninfluenced by the noise of the world. Being alone also provides the time and space to prioritize self-care. In the busyness of life, it's easy to neglect your own needs while focusing on the demands of others. Solitude gives you permission to pause and take care of yourself. Whether it's through meditation, journaling, reading, or simply enjoying a quiet walk, these moments of solitude help you replenish your energy and restore balance to your life. It's not selfish to take this time for yourself. It's essential. You can't pour from an empty cup, and solitude allows you to refill it. One of the greatest lessons of solitude is the ability to embrace your own company without judgment. Many people fear being alone because it forces them to confront their thoughts, insecurities, and fears. But facing these aspects of yourself is not something to dread, it's something to embrace. Solitude is a mirror, reflecting back to you the areas of your life that need attention and growth. It's an opportunity to work through your emotions, heal old wounds, and cultivate a deeper sense of self-acceptance. When you learn to love and accept yourself in solitude, you become less reliant on others to fill emotional gaps. Solitude also deepens your relationships with others. When you take the time to understand and nurture yourself, you bring a more grounded and authentic version of yourself into your connections. You no longer seek relationships out of need or fear of being alone, but rather out of a genuine desire to share your life with others. This creates healthier, more meaningful connections because you're not placing unrealistic expectations on others to complete you. Instead, you're sharing your completeness with them. Solitude is a gift because it reminds you of your own power and worth. It strips away the distractions and reveals the essence of who you are. It teaches you that being alone doesn't mean you're lacking anything. It means you're creating space for growth, reflection, and self-discovery. Solitude allows you to build a relationship with yourself, one that is unshakable and enduring. When you embrace solitude, you begin to see it not as a punishment, but as a profound blessing, one that enhances every aspect of your life. Loving yourself fiercely and unapologetically is one of the most powerful things you can do for your life. It means accepting every part of yourself, the good, the bad, and the in-between, without seeking permission or approval from others. It's about embracing your individuality and standing firmly in who you are, no matter what the world says. This kind of self-love is not arrogance or selfishness. It's the foundation of a healthy and fulfilling life. When you truly love yourself, you create a solid base from which all other aspects of your life can flourish. Self-love starts with self-acceptance. It's understanding that you are human, and like everyone else, you have flaws, weaknesses, and moments of failure. but these don't define your worth. To love yourself fiercely is to acknowledge your imperfections and still recognize your value. It's about being kind to yourself, especially in moments of difficulty. Instead of beating yourself up over mistakes, you learn from them and move forward with grace. This acceptance doesn't mean settling or refusing to grow. It means treating yourself with the same compassion you would offer a close friend. When you love yourself unapologetically, you stop looking for validation from others. Too often, people rely on external opinions to feel good about themselves. They seek approval, compliments, or acceptance from the outside world, thinking it will fill the void within. But true self-love comes from within. It's knowing your worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. It's standing tall in your own skin and saying, I am enough, regardless of what others think or say. This inner confidence frees you from the exhausting cycle of people-pleasing and allows you to live authentically. Loving yourself also means setting boundaries and protecting your energy. It's understanding that not everyone deserves access to your time, emotions, or attention. When you love yourself fiercely, you learn to say no to things that don't serve you or align with your values. You stop tolerating toxic relationships, harmful behaviors, and situations that drain your spirit. Setting boundaries isn't about being harsh or shutting people out. It's about respecting yourself enough to prioritize your well-being. It's recognizing that your peace of mind is non-negotiable and that you have the right to protect it. Self-love requires you to celebrate your strengths and accomplishments. It's easy to focus on what you haven't achieved or areas where you feel inadequate. But loving yourself means acknowledging how far you've come. It's about taking pride in your efforts, no matter how small, and recognizing the unique qualities that make you who you are. When you love yourself unapologetically, you stop comparing yourself to others because you understand that your journey is your own. You appreciate your own growth and give yourself the credit you deserve. To love yourself fiercely is to honor your needs and desires. It's about listening to your intuition and prioritizing what truly matters to you. This means making choices that align with your goals and passions, even if they don't make sense to others. It's about living authentically, without fear of judgment or rejection. When you love yourself unapologetically, you give yourself permission to chase your dreams and pursue the life you want, without compromising your happiness to fit into someone else's expectations. Loving yourself also involves practicing self-care, not just in physical ways, but emotionally and mentally as well. It's about taking the time to nurture your mind, body, and soul. This might mean resting when you're tired, seeking help when you're struggling, or simply spending time doing things that bring you joy. Self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity. When you prioritize yourself, you're not being selfish. You're ensuring that you have the energy and strength to show up fully in all areas of your life. Self-love is a journey, not a destination. It takes time, effort, and a commitment to yourself. It's about unlearning years of self-doubt and replacing it with unwavering confidence. It's about choosing yourself over and over again, even on the days when it feels difficult. To love yourself fiercely and unapologetically is to recognize your worth, embrace your uniqueness, and live with a sense of freedom that comes from being true to yourself. If you live with a sense of freedom that comes from being true to yourself, it's the most important relationship you will ever have. And when you nurture it, everything else in your life begins to fall into place.